over a lot of the details about the story and the poems and the way this whole thing came about. So why don't you share that with our audience, and then maybe you'll bring out some of the dancers and Donna, okay?
Sure.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Donna, are you back there? Are you coming out? She's my sidekick. So it's really was a magical experience. Donna and I just met a few years ago. Many of these poems were just journal entries and free writes from a treatment center for eating disorders. And my therapist suggested that I just write. I just write and write and write. And I kept saying, but no one wants to hear this. No one cares about this. And she said, just write, just write, just write, just write. And when I went back a few years later, I realized that many of them were poems. I left the performing arts world and pursued my poetry. And many of them I finished at Sarah Lawrence in 2005 and 2007. And Mr. Tom Lux actually helped me with quite a few of these poems. He's here this evening. That's very exciting. And then they kind of were just there, you know, they're part of a manuscript. But like I said, many of them I wrote over 15 years ago. And then Donna and I, by chance, she moved, we met at our children were in class together. And she made me laugh the very first night, and it was an instant connection. And I invited her a few weeks later to go see a reading, and there was this big storm and people couldn't come, and so they said, you can read 15 minutes. And I was like, okay, I'll just read my dance poems. Donna will like that. And so I did, and we weren't even, I don't think I'd even finished reading, and her mind was already going. And now you have to remember that I knew her for 2 weeks. She just moved here from New Jersey. She had a dance company in New Jersey. She's worked extensively, but I knew nothing of her work. I knew nothing of her process, and she didn't know anything of mine as well. And we drove the 4 hours home, and she couldn't stop talking, and she just had this flash and flood of ideas, and she said, this is a contemporary ballet. I'm going to start with this one. Can I read this one? Can I read what? And she just was going and going and going. And I just said, sure. And it reminded me something last year when I was here. Nick Flynn gave a craft talk, and he was talking about collaboration. He said the very first step in collaboration is just saying yes. And that's really true. I've met someone that works her craft the same way I do, has an appreciation and an intensity and a strong commitment to what she does. And this is what she's done. So I'm really quite fortunate to... I don't know if anybody has any questions. I told my mom if no one asks a question, she has to ask one. So unless you want to hear my mom ask a question, I gave her to ask us. Then. No? Okay.
Can you introduce some of the dancers, or all of them?
Sure.
You can just say your name and, yeah, just say your name.
Okay. Age?
Okay.
Hi, my name is Ivy Canepa.
Hello, I'm Alexis Weisbrot.
Hi, I'm Nicola Haig. Margot Dribbin.
Keiko Wally.
Hello, Corey Hines.
Hi, I'm Natalie Parker.
Hi, I'm Lauren Foster.
Hi, I'm Danny Justino.
Hi, I'm Bryn Murray. Hi, I'm Peyton Brewster.
Hi, I'm Catherine Maher. Hi, I'm Grace Gordish.
Hi, I'm Ashley Sepulvers.
Hi, I'm Catherine Smith.
Hello, I'm Susan Folks.
Thank you, Susan. I think we met in August. We do this all the time. And we met in August of 2000. It's been about 3 years. But we finished the work after about a year and a half. And this is, just what we do because we feel compelled to do this and to make work. And on that note, I'd like to just take the opportunity to thank the dancers. They are here because they said yes to this project, some of them from the very beginning, and have stayed with it. And we're very, very grateful. Without them, we wouldn't have work. We wouldn't have this wonderful piece to share with you. So thank you from the bottom of our hearts. There's a question.
I'm interested in the collaboration process. The poems were already done when you got together. I'm interested in whether the collaboration caused you to adjust, rewrite, extend, like new.
And if you didn't hear the question, he asked about the collaboration process, whether or not, as we got working on the project, if the poems changed or became different in some way, how we collaborated. So, you want to talk, Donna? Sure. Yes, when I met Lonnie, as I think she had previously explained, the poems had been written 15 years prior, something like that, and we did very little editing, very little. I felt like she had written a script. I wasn't through half of her poems when I was texting her. I remember I had a few moments to myself, and I was in my living room and asking her if we could collaborate and bring this to the stage. I immediately saw it alive on dancers, and it was very clear. I felt that whether she realized it or not, it was absolutely a script for sort of a movement play, something maybe a little bit different. So, I mean, here and there, we maybe edited very minor, very minor. Sometimes we put some poems, lines from a poem just to kind of condense material at times, but that's really about it. Yeah, that's about it. Yeah, from the very beginning, Lonnie's words I felt were so descriptive, and they had movement. Not just using ballet terms, but really genuine movement, flow, and rhythm. And so pretty early on, I felt like we wanted you to be able to feel like what it is to be a dancer, what it feels like to hold the bar, what it feels like to press your foot into the floor. And the only way we could think about doing that was to make a film so you could see and feel that up close. And then also to sort of play with the subconscious. We wanted to get at something that was really hard to get at with live performance, and we also felt it would add dimension. And it was the first time we had ever worked with film. I've never worked with film before, but I absolutely loved the collaborative process. We all learned, the three of us, so much. And what's also interesting is, and perhaps this is when it works best, we overlap. I love to write. Lonnie, of course, was a former dancer. The filmmaker is also a choreographer. So it was really interesting that we all sort of could overlap, and sometimes having to compromise, but other times really finding those magical moments we all agreed on, and images we all agreed on.
Well, I think when we first started working, we all had the conversation that either we had some type of eating disorder or friends that we went to school with had eating disorders. So we all kind of had that in common, that commonality. And then as we brought the children in, I know that there were some conversations with the children as well about the material and what we were working with. Do you want to say anything? Dancers don't like to talk usually.
I would also say that something that this piece has brought about in this way is that I feel that now that I've done this and seen this in this form, it's also made me more aware of the value of what we write. We were in class just the other day. I'm in Patricia Smith's workshop, yay. And yeah, it's been great. And she said, you know, you have to write the thing that makes you feel most alone in this world. And that's the thing that will connect you to the most people. And I thought that really spoke to the truth of what, you know, my intention in just being able to write was. And it's also made me aware of the sort of social statement. We've had a lot of support from different organizations in the area, and it's really created a conversation in a way that I didn't necessarily intend, but it's truly been a remarkable gift and an ability to talk about something that might not want to be spoken about. Did you want to say something, Alexis?
In the process, there was the piece that we did, Draw My Disease, where we were in the black tutus, and we came into the studio and we all picked something that made us self-conscious, a body part. And we started just improvising and creating our own little solos. So the beginning of that piece is our own version of our body that made us self-conscious or we were uncomfortable with. So that's, I think, where we took the eating disorder and made it our own in the studio, was being dancers and looking at ourselves all the time and what was, you know, really affecting us personally.
Have you guys ever written poems? They write poems with their bodies? Anyone? I don't know. There is a question in the back.
Did you understand your poetry in a different way after you saw it performed?
I did, and the woman who asked this question is a woman named Clara, and I actually met her, I think, about 14 years ago. She was in a workshop when I first started in Boston, and she was in a workshop that I first started bringing these poems to, so it's really, we just ran into each other, so that's so cool. Yeah, it did make me look at my poems differently. I mean, when I write, and I think that's because I'm a dancer, I always hear, and I'm a runner, and I always hear the movement and the sound, but to see them in this way, I mean, I think the first time we did the performance, I was like, oh my gosh, so many people heard the poem. The biggest reading I've ever done is like 10 people, and I was like, that's really good for a poetry reading, you know? And it's just made me realize that when you have more than one opportunity or one facet, that it really can kind of cross the spectrum. And it made me see my poems as more valuable and more alive and less inclusive.
We cry.
We cry a lot. A lot. Yeah. I usually preface it by saying, I'm going to cry. And then I cry. But it's, you know, even if it's not your own story, there's so much of it. I mean, a week ago in the studio, I'm crying. And I mean, I've seen this work, you know, I've rehearsed it. There are days when I don't want to watch it, and then there are days when something new touches me. And it's how the dancers, how they move and how much of themselves they invest into the work. So it's very personal. Do you feel that as dancers? Anyone want to talk about it? No, Dan, I knew.
Stand. I don't even know. our star.
Hi. I think I'm a lot better at expressing myself with my body than my words. So I don't really know what's going to come out now, but I've cried. I mean, we've been working on this piece for almost 2 years, and there's always something, as simple as a hand gesture that makes, me cry through the process. And I think through personal life experiences, I try to put myself, invest myself emotionally as much as I can, and it just, I don't know, every time I see Lonnie cry, she's usually sitting in front of me while I'm dancing my solo, and so of course, that gets me, and I think, it just, you can always relate it to something, always relate it. So, yes, it was very, very emotional. Very. Anyone? Anyone else? Yeah. I do. I do. Yes, most of the time. You gotta. No, I do practice it. I do practice. You gotta get that stamina up. You gotta practice 5 minutes jogging in place. Isn't that easy? So.
Want me to start? Well, we found out we like working together, right? I think we both feel an overwhelming, in some ways, I guess, a sense of responsibility to what we are thinking and the social awareness aspect of what we're doing. And we have an idea for, and we are working on a piece titled Voices, which ultimately will highlight different women's stories, how they relate to children, or how they relate to men, and back and forth. But you want to say a little more about that, Donna? Well, after making this piece, it became, it was one of those growing experiences where you can't go back after making it. So, I used to make a lot of dances to music just because I like the music, and not, I have no interest right now. It has to be about something, and not only that, it probably needs to be multifaceted and bring in other disciplines as well. So Lonnie started writing these poems, and like she said, the next work, Voices, will hopefully be sort of a multimedia work, maybe in a little bit different way, maybe using photography and maybe some digital media. But, we feel like the words and the movement will always be at the heart of it. It's always the story. It's always where it begins, because that's who we are. Yeah. I've written a few of the poems, but the difference in this go around is that the poems aren't all written for the next piece. So I'm hammering away at that. So I've been working on those. So that'll be a little bit different. But perhaps there's a question here, and then in the front row.
Is there any possibilities or plans to take this kind of role to other communities?
Well, absolutely. We're open to. Yes, we say yes. We just say yes. Absolutely. That is our goal, to have this reach as many people as possible, whether it's at a regional theater or our off-Broadway version, which we do in our kitchen sometimes at night. But yeah, that's really great. Yeah, there's a dream version that exists and always has. This production, up to this point, we haven't pursued funding. It's not funded. This is just us, and these dancers are all here voluntarily for the most part. It's absolutely wonderful. On the other hand, it brings up the conversation that art needs a little help. And so that's what we're working on next, is how do we, set this up so that maybe we can pursue funding and take it to the next level. Because we performed it now as it sort of looked tonight a couple of times. But that next, I think, that I don't want to say level, but pursuing that dream version would maybe, give it a permanent home, permanent set, original score, the possibilities are endless. And in this lifetime, we hope we see that. So, in the front row.
Yes, how and when did the filmmaker get involved, and will she stay involved? And also I'm wondering how the male dancer relates to the body in the class.
Okay, we hired Tiffany 6 months or so into it. Probably about 6 months or so into it. She and Donna knew each other, have known each other a while. I forgot the rest of your question. We were going to talk about Corey. You were going to talk about how.
Hello. I think anytime you are constantly in front of a mirror looking at yourself, there's always that kind of thing in the back of your head, like this could be better, this could be better. But me personally, like I didn't really have any sort of, like eating disorder. But I certainly had friends and people I knew in school who went through that. So I can relate to it in that way. Okay, here.
He eats a lot of bagels.
Anyone else? Question? Yeah, Tiffany, she absolutely would have joined us tonight. She lives in Gainesville, but in fact this weekend she's in Miami showing at a dance film festival there. She makes films full time, and like I said, she's also a choreographer, so for her, it was interesting because she said she wasn't used to taking direction because she's always in charge. And so and she was very open about it, but that was a discussion we had, sort of whose project is this and how do we come together to make this work? So she came in pretty early on, and then we made the films, they were sort of staggered throughout the process. So we feel like she was in it from, near the beginning to the end. And she joins us whenever she can. So, yeah. Of course, I would like to thank the Palm Beach Poetry Festival and Miles and Susan and Lorraine and our crew here at the theater. Okay. We have another question up here. So I'm not sure, I'll just repeat the question. She asked the younger dancers what it was like to perform in a ballet of this nature as opposed to a more traditional, say, Balanchine ballet. So.
Hey, next, who's going to do it?
I thought it was interesting to do something different than the usual, like Swan Lake or Sleeping Beauty. I liked how it was, I don't know.
I thought it was really cool.
We usually invite people to come and peruse the bookstore. None of the dancers have written books that I know of. But thank you for coming. We hope you'll join us tomorrow for the events that we're having tomorrow. We're having a beloved poem panel, an evening reading, and a coffee house performance event. So.